All right, so I think we can get started. So, welcome everyone to our leadership workshop. This workshop is on the stressors of life and leadership and is presented by the Leadership Center here on campus. So first, before we start the presentation, the workshop, I just want to talk a little bit about the Leadership Center in general. So the Leadership Center is actually a physical space on campus. It is located on the second floor of the Student Center, and it is open and available for students, faculty, and staff to use. It is open all throughout the day and all throughout the week for students to be able to have a place to study, to work on a group project. You can even reserve the space for meetings or different group organizations. So the space is available on campus and it is open during COVID hours. So you are more than welcome to just hop in, even if you want to eat lunch. So the Leadership Center provides multiple different programming here on campus. One of the programming, which is you guys are a part of right now, is our workshops. So our workshops are presented by student leadership consultants, and we also implement what we call Kent Talks, which is a discussion-based curriculum in which we talk about hot topics. And we also create the Leadership Institute and the Leadership Awards. That's just a little bit about our Leadership Center. Again, it is open for all to participate in and get involved with. We also have a model within the Leadership Center. So this model is a guide for all of our programmings and workshops and events that we host through the Leadership Center. And this model is supposed to represent the different areas in which we can elicit change. Those areas include intrapersonal, interpersonal, and community. And if all those are worked on, we can implement change as individuals and as a leader. Today's workshop, we are going to touch on the interpersonal aspect of the model. So we're going to talk a lot about self-awareness today in terms of stressors in leadership and in life. So I want to quickly introduce myself. So my name is Andrea Specht. I am one of the student leadership consultants here in the Leadership Center. I'm actually a senior deaf education major, and this is my second year as a leadership consultant, presenting all these workshops and participating in all these events. So let's get started. So first, I want to define what stress is, and I kind of want to alleviate some maybe negative connotations that the general population is aware of, and in order to kind of have a more understanding of what stress really is in terms of the word itself, rather than the connotations connected to it. We'll start by defining stress. So what is stress? Stress is actually the body's natural way of reacting and responding to pressure situations, changes, and feelings of being overwhelmed. And those feelings of being overwhelmed not necessarily can be entirely negative, but just in general being overwhelmed within your situation. So stress is how the body reacts to it. It's kind of like a 911 system in terms of, is it going to fight or flight? So how your body reacts to those situations is stress. Now, stress is typically seen as negative, but some stressors actually can become positive and are beneficial for motivation and getting through different tasks and getting through your daily life. Low levels of stress, if you have low levels of stress, it can lead to increased amounts of boredom and a significant decrease in motivation. So you won't be able to get a lot done. So having no stress at all is not necessarily beneficial. However, high levels of stress can result in fatigue and burnout, as most college students are fully aware of how stress can create situations in which are not positive. So I want to ask the question to you guys in the chat. So feel free, you can either unmute yourself or you can type it in the chat. A quick discussion question so that I can kind of change your idea of what stress might be, as stress is very seen as negative. So I want to ask the question was, when was there a time in your life where stress had a positive impact? For me, I will give an example first. So I tend to be a little bit of a procrastinator in this aspect. So I like to leave my work kind of till the last minute, not necessarily all the way last minute, but I work better under stress when I know that I have a serious time limitation. I tend to push through and be able to get out what I want to do within a smaller amount of time. If I started 2 weeks before it was due, I'm like, oh, I have 2 weeks, it's fine, I can do it later. So having more of a serious time limitation helps me and adds to the positives of stress. Someone in the chat stated, stress can motivate me to get assignments done as well. Yes, stress is a great motivator. It really helps individuals kind of push through, get tasks done, as long as those stress levels are within an optimal level. Someone else commented, I also have felt positive stress when applying for grad school and jobs because even though I was stressed, I was doing something to better my future. Yeah, that's awesome. Being able to push through and kind of stress yourself into excitement in order to apply for grad schools or jobs or careers. If you're a senior in college, it is a great motivator to be able to get that dream job that you've worked so hard for in your last 4 years. Awesome. I got another comment. Applying to and being admitted to grad schools. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy y'all are extending your educational career. That's awesome. And being able to motivate yourself through positive, optimal stress in order to be applied and admitted. Congratulations, admitted into grad schools. That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. So I talked a little bit about kind of having an optimal level of stress. So I'm going to show you what is known as the stress bell curve, and we're going to talk about that a little. So this is called the stress performance curve. So this shows the optimal and not optimal way in which stress can impact you. So on the left-hand side, if you have very few amounts of stressors in your life, in your everyday life, you tend to kind of get bored, you're not effective, you have low motivation, you don't want to do anything, you become lazy. However, in the middle, if you have optimal times of stress, then you're able to reach your most effective self and be able to provide a performance in which it is beneficial and successful. However, in that red portion, if you have too much stress and are overwhelmed in an increasing amount where you can no longer handle the stress, it leads to fatigue and eventually a breakdown as a result of stress. So having an optimal amount of stress is very beneficial. So not all stress is negative. Some stress can be positive. So it's important to be able to make those checks and balances to make sure that even though you do have stress in your life, that the stress is important for motivation so that you're not bored, but also so that you're not overwhelmed and having a breakdown. So keep this in mind. So when you have less stress, your effectiveness tends to be decreased. And if you have way too much stress, then your effectiveness also is decreased. And there's an optimal amount level for stress. So now I'm sure you're very familiar with different types of stresses. So we're going to do a quick Mentimeter activity so I can understand what different types of stresses that you're going through. So if you could please go to menti.com and enter the code 69115213, and we are going to create a little bubble cloud of words for what stress you might be under currently, and maybe we can touch upon it and modify this workshop curriculum in order to identify the stressors that our group is having currently. I'll present that word cloud for you. Again, the code is 69115213. And you can type in a few words. I think there is unlimited amount of adding additions, so you can be free to add as many as you would like to this word cloud. I'll give you time for that now. Summer plans, summer internships, assignments. Assignments, Job responsibilities, that's a big one too. Graduate school, COVID, current events, projects. I think we'll wait a few more minutes to see if more people add. Relationships, yeah, that's one too. I think everyone may have added. So I'm gonna go through them again. So we have summer plans, relationships, summer internships, job responsibilities is quite big, so I'm assuming most of you put that. Graduate school, current events, assignments, projects, and COVID. Yeah, I feel that. I feel like a lot of us can relate to the majority of those. And I just want to point out that summer plans and relationships may they're positive things, but they also can provide stress, so which we will talk about too. So I'm awesome. So happy that you guys put that in. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. Let's get back. So again, thank you for sharing. That was awesome. I'm so happy to be able to kind of have an understanding of what everyone's going through to better help me. So we're going to talk a little bit about just like a general common life stressors, which in our word bubble relationships was mentioned, and COVID, which we'll talk about too. So the first one is maintaining relationships. Maintaining relationships is a lot of stress. It can cause a lot of stress. Just working towards a healthy, not only a personal relationship, so like with your friends, maybe your coworkers, um, professionals, so that's your coworkers, maybe your boss, maybe even higher ups, administrators, with your family. Family relationships can and probably will be very stressful, just regardless if they're negative or positive. And it's also important to note your self relationship as well. If you don't have a strong relationship with yourself, that can cause a lot of stress. Financial stress, which I'm a little bit surprised no one commented, which is a good thing. So, financial stress that can be paying bills, making sure you're earning an income or earning enough in your job position, or even finding a job in general, taking out loans, paying for necessities, so your groceries, your gas, um, internet, because internet's a necessity now with college, and unplanned spending. So maybe your car broke down and you need to spend like $1,000 to get it fixed in order to get from point A to point B. So financial stress can cause those levels to rise above optimal. Life changes. COVID falls under this. COVID is a big life change that happened to the entire world, which caused a lot of stress. COVID is still continuing to cause stress to try and figure out what people want to do with what's happening, how their plans have shifted. So COVID definitely provided a lot of probably negative stress. And some people might have been thankful in some aspects, which can cause positive stresses. With life changes, also, there are positive and negative life changes. So maybe you're so excited to finally find an apartment, but finding that apartment and that perfect apartment can cause a lot of stress. Even though it is a positive life change, and planned versus unplanned stressors. So buying that house may have been planned. However, the COVID is definitely not a planned stress that has happened. So being able to understand that stress can come both in positive and negative aspects and planned versus unplanned aspects of life changes. And then also having a healthy, um, being healthy in your body. So having a physical and mental body health is very important and can cause stress, making sure you are maintaining your healthy lifestyles or making sure that maybe sicknesses and sudden illnesses can cause a lot of stress. So that healthy and that body aspect of stress can cause a lot. So those are just some the main four common life stressors. There are definitely more that you can come up in your everyday life. Everything can cause stress as well. And again, that can be positive or negative stress. Since we are a college here at Kent State, well, I'm going to touch on the educational and career stressors and like more of the collegiate aspect of stress. So one of the first ones is expectations. This can go for both in your classes, in your major, your professors, and even yourself. So those high expectations and intentions placed on by your bosses, your coworkers, your loved ones, and those high expectations that you might have of yourself can cause a lot of stress and increase those stress levels. Your course load is very critical to this. Your course load and how much or how little, how much information or resources you're receiving, how many assignments there are, what time restraints are you put under, the due dates, the people in general, maybe group work is a stressor for you, and being able to connect with those people in order to complete assignments. So your course load is definitely one of the common stressors within the collegiate level. And then future ambitions. So trying to figure out what you want to do after college or even while you're in college, trying to figure out, well, maybe I want this major or maybe I want this major. Well, I like doing this. So having future ambitions and trying to figure out what the next step in life can cause a lot of stress. I know for me, I changed my major 3 times in order to figure out what I want to do. And I'm even going to change it farther than that into furthering my education. So just trying to figure out that next step can cause a lot of stress to increase your stress levels. And then since we are Leadership Center, I am going to touch upon our leadership stressors and what stressors are common within leadership roles. Responsibilities, which was in our word cloud. It was one of the larger ones, so I'm assuming quite a few people commented that. So your responsibilities cause a lot of stress. Managing and maintaining position tasks, attending meetings, acting as a role model, making sure that you're up to par with your standards for yourself and your standards for your leadership position within a group or organization and your expectations from others of what you're expected to do can cause a lot of stress. Having enough resources can cause a stress, maybe feeling unsupported, especially during COVID when school shut down and a lot of people had to remove online. They didn't feel like they had enough resources in order to promote the best, in order to succeed and be the most successful they could as a leader. So those resources definitely add to stress and trying to do a lot more with a lot less. So trying to figure out how to make it the best you can, even if you do not have that solid foundation to go off of, can lead to a lot of stress and increase your stress levels. Time restraints, which we did touch upon in the collegiate level, but making sure that you have enough time for individual tasks and implementations within your organization or in your group or in your leadership roles, wherever they may be. So making sure you have enough time to fill everything and be able to get everything done. And then team collaboration. Team collaboration and the aspect of making sure that everyone's voice is heard. If it's a collaboration aspect in your leadership role, making sure that everyone feels like their voice is a part of it and everyone has a say. Group participation, so making sure yourself are within the conversation and making sure everyone within the group is participating and no one's just sitting off on the sidelines not participating. And in the aspect of now that getting participation from outside. So if your leadership position was is in an organization of a club, you might be having the stress of having new members or getting enough people to participate within your organization in order to keep it afloat can cause a lot of stress. And collaboration differences. So if you are within a leadership um, position in which other leaders that you're collaborating with, you may have different views or different uh, perspectives, and you might clash. So that can cause a lot of stress within your leadership positions and being able to accommodate to those people that you might have collaboration differences or perspective and opinion differences. So being able to try to manage that can cause a lot of stress and increase your stress levels. So we talked a lot about like all the different kinds of stressors that we're going to face or possibly are facing. There are more stressors, but I just wanted to touch upon the main ones that you might encounter so you have a general idea of where your root cause for your stress may be coming from. And the aspect of leadership, you may your stress may be coming from team collaboration where you can't work with other people and being able to kind of get down to it and realize where that stressor is in order to manage it. Now we're going to touch upon the effects of stress, and I'm sure as college students we have a lot of experience with how stress affects ourselves and our bodies. We're just going to touch upon it a little bit, and I believe I do have a discussion question within here that we're going to talk with one another so you can kind of get a feel for what other people are going through and how stress may affect other people to be able to gain that perspective and put ourselves in other people's shoes for what stress they deal with. So we're going to touch upon the physical aspects. So these are the physical signs that you may have high levels of stress and may need to start reducing. So you can get headaches, body aches, an overall tension of your muscles. Your muscles will tense up like they're ready to run. That is a common sign of high levels of stress. Stomach aches and nausea and gastrointestinal complications. I personally get canker sores as a result of stress. And typically during midterms or finals week, my whole mouth is just sore. So that's where my stress comes from. Change in breathing patterns and an increase in heart rate. So your heart rate will go up if you're under high levels of stress, which can lead to farther severe complications if not resolved. Fatigue and a change in sleeping patterns. Fatigue in the aspect of even if you are sleeping, you might still feel very tired throughout the day because you do not have that energy to push through that stress because of the stress. And with sleeping patterns, you can also oversleep or undersleeping, kind of hide away from your stress or be awake all night because of it. An increase or decrease in appetite. So you can either take stress and be able to like stress eat, or if your stress affects you, you might not even want the sight of food. And then weight fluctuations. And this can be both in gaining weight, possibly from an increase in appetite, or decreasing um, weight in course of heart rate and not eating. And then one of the most important ones that I typically get is called stress sick. So stress sick is when you become so stressed that the sudden onset of an illness turns out, and this typically is a result of burnout, and this is your body telling you you need to calm down. The stress is too much, and it shuts you down, so it becomes sick, and your immune system actually decreases as a result of being overstressed. So that's how stress happens. And it's fairly common. Most people may not realize that they might be stress sick, but it's a way of your body telling you you need to calm down, you need to shut down, and it's your body's way of making you rest if you don't rest from the stress. Well, that rhymes. I like that. Mental effects. So stress affects your mental healthiness severely. So these are the mental and behavioral signs that you may have high levels of stress and may need to take action. So you might withdraw from everyday life and become self-isolated, negative self views of the world and self, like you can't do it, the world needs to stop, I don't want to be here anymore. So it affects you in that aspect and changes your views negatively. An increase in irritability and emotional outbursts and frustrations where you can't manage the stress, so you just explode from holding it in. A decrease in self-confidence, thinking you might not be able, you can't do this anymore, this is not worth it, I can't do it, I'm not strong enough. So stress can cause you to decrease your self-confidence and believe in yourself, and an inability to relax or take time to step back. This relates to the stress sickness, which we talk about. If you become overstressed, your body will force you to rest if you cannot. And then feelings of depression and anxiety are fairly common with high levels of stress. And then we're going to talk about the last effect is on relationships, which I think is very important to touch on, especially in the aspect of leadership positions, because in a leadership role, we do tend to have relationships with a wide variety of people. So it's important to make sure that we are aware of how our stress may affect us in terms of our relationships. So this is the stress, how it affects relationships, a decrease in patience and flexibility with conversing or collaborating. So you won't be able to have the energy or patience to work with those people that you may not get along with fully on collaboration efforts. And you may not even want to converse with people because you want to just be withdrawn. Discredited, misdirected outbursts toward other individuals. So you may be holding in a lot of your stress and your emotions, and you'll just, one thing will set you off, and it will be just a misdirected outburst to whoever person is closest to you, whom that outburst may not even be directed towards, but that's who you're taking it out on. Refusing help can also be a sign. So you say, "No, I'm fine. I can do it." That's a sign that you might be overstressed, where you are feeling those physical symptoms, those mental effects, but you don't want to accept that help because you don't want people to know about what you're going through, or becoming over reliant on others and taking that help overboard so that you put all your stress on other people. Unable to take other people's emotions into consideration, so putting yourself in other people's shoes, you might not be able to have the mental capacity because you're dealing with high levels of stress to take in considerations of what other people may be saying, what other people might be going through, and maybe their levels of stress themselves. And then blocking out loved ones and losing contact of a result of withdrawing and self-isolating. So that's one of the physical aspects. So you might push loved ones, your friends, even a close coworker away as a result of having high levels of stress, which can cause a strain on your relationship. So for this, we talked a lot about the effects of stress. Not everyone will feel every single one of these effects as a result of high levels of stress. Some may only have an effect of one or two, or someone might have the effect of all of them, depending on the levels and personalities. So I am throwing out the question to all of you. Again, you can unmute or you can type in the chat. What are the typical ways in which stress affects you? I know I touched upon it a little bit on the physical aspect. So I tend to get canker sores when I become really stressed, and my mouth just becomes a giant pain situation. And that's how my body is how I perceive the stress. So I have more of the physical aspects of how stress affects me. Headaches, of course. Get headaches every single day, so I can't really tell if that's stress or not. Someone's just commented in the chat. I get really bad hives on my face, my neck that won't go away. Yeah, your skin is can be affected affected severely by stress. I know a lot of people tend to get breakouts. Their skin might get red from the stress, and that's another way that stress affects you. Yeah, your skin is definitely affected. Someone said hard time sleeping. Yeah, maybe just like you're tired, you're tired, you've worked all day, you worked on assignments all day, but yet you still are laying in bed and you're just wide awake because you can't sleep and you can't relax. Someone said, sometimes have a hard time sleeping. Both have a hard time sleeping, while other times sleeping too much. Yes. So stress is a funny thing. It can affect you both ways in terms of you may be oversleeping or undersleeping. I know I do that as well. If I don't want to deal with the stress, then I just become fatigued and I just want to sleep the entire day because I'm done. Or I'm so stressed out in my mind that I'm no longer able to sleep because I'm so stressed and my body's in that fight mode and I can't make it relax and my muscles are all tensed up. Yeah, I feel that. Thank you guys for sharing. Those are awesome. A lot of us have the sleeping, I think, is one of the biggest ones that a lot of people have a hard time with. Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. And again, these are just so that you have an awareness, so that you're aware of your own body in terms of, okay, this is happening, so maybe it's related to stress and I need to calm down, maybe rethink my priorities, make checks and balances on myself. So these are just so that you have an awareness in order to accommodate for that. So now the important part of it, we're going to talk about overcoming stress. And overcoming stress can be shown in many different ways depending on the person. And there is not one way that works for everyone in order to overcome their stress. As stress, as you have seen, has affects us very differently. So we have to just make sure that we are aware of all the different types of management methods, strategies that we can use in order to overcome this stress. So the first important thing to have, and this goes for all, this is not how overcoming stress can be done. However, this is the first step in order to find those strategies that work for yourself. So, in order to be able to find those strategies, in order to overcome that stress, we need to have a healthy stress mindset. That's kind of why I incorporated at the beginning of this workshop about how stress can be a positive in our lives and how we need stress in order to get through so we still have motivation and are able to be effective leaders. So the first step to overcoming stress starts with you and yourself. No other person is able to reduce your stress levels until you have a self-realization and acceptance that you're overstressed and that you need help. Yes, people might be able to help you, but they don't know to help you if you don't express and accept the fact that I am stressed at this moment. So you yourself are the only one that can start that process and that first step into becoming less stressful. You also need to make sure you change your perspectives. This is a little contradictory because when you're in a stressful environment, all you can focus is on that stress. So we want to be able to change our perspectives within that. So when overstressed, the world seems like it's crashing down with every second, and you might become withdrawn. But it's important to take a step back from the situation, change your perspective, look at it a different way, and find the positives of the situation. For example, a lot of you guys talked about grad school. Applying for grad school in general, everything about grad school is very, very stressful. But how most people get through it is being able to change their perspective and realize why are they going to grad school, why they're so excited about going to grad school, what they're going to do after they graduate. So being able to take that, putting yourself in that stressful situation of maybe this class has a huge assignment and I just can't get it done, but being able to take that step back, realize I'm doing this assignment in order to pass this class, in order to continue my education, to get a degree in a career field that is my dream. So being able to take that step back, change your perspective, and look at it in a different light in order to reduce the amount of stress because we will become in our own little bubbles from stress as a result of stress. So you want to be able to pop that bubble and look at the big picture. And then you want to modify your negative thoughts into positive thinking. So, yes, this assignment is awful, but in the reality of it, it's a really positive thing because you're working towards your dream career. And then self confidence is key. Being able to tell yourself that you can do it and will be able to do it is an incredible strategy to use. So being able to be like, you know what, this is stressful, this is a lot of work, but I know I can do it. If you don't have that self confidence in yourself, you're not going to be able to find the motivation from within to be able to push through this stress. Since we talked about having a different perspective, making sure we have a healthy, stressful mindset, and be able to take a step back and see big pictures, I want to touch upon different strategies to manage stress. So once we have this figured out how to step back from the situation, here are ways that we can both have early intervention in the aspect of preventing stress and in the moment of stress. So knowing when to say no. This is a hard one for me specifically because I want to say yes to everything. I want to do every experience, but it's important to know when enough is enough and know when your plate is full and not to add more to it. Make sure you express emotions. Expressing emotions can be hard, but if we keep our emotions bottled up inside, it only adds to the pressure and the stress. It's like a bottle with air compression. If there's too much pressure within that bottle is just gonna pop. Adapting to the situation by changing your perspective, which we did touch upon. Accept what you cannot change. So you won't be able to change everything about your situation. You can maybe able to change some things about whatever stress is coming your way or whatever stress you have in your life. But being able to take that step and accept that you can't change the situation and being able to accept and be okay with that is critical in order to reduce stress. Make time for self-care. This is really important. That goes back to the effects, so we can have physical, mental, and relationship effects from stress. So being able to take time for yourself in order to take care of yourself and be able to have that healthy body, because if we don't have that healthy body, it only adds farther to the stress and we won't be able to deal with the stress. So being able to make sure that we have a good foundation to be able to support our own selves through this. And then adopt a healthier lifestyle. Eat healthy foods. If you're eating garbage all the time, then you're going to feel like garbage and then you'll feel more stressed because you feel like garbage. It's a whole cycle. And then make sure that like another thing is exercising regularly, get that energy up, get your endorphins out, and create a lifestyle that is beneficial to you. And again, those are just some of the strategies. There are other strategies. So if you use other strategies and they work for you, that is awesome. Maybe if you have additional strategies, you can share it in the chat for everyone to know so that everyone can have the best opportunity in order to manage and overcome stress. So I'm gonna bring the question to all of you. Again, you can unmute or type in the chat. What is your go-to stress relief activity or coping mechanism? This is gonna sound really bougie, but I like a good bubble bath. I enjoy just relaxing in the bathtub and being able to reduce my stress that way. That's my prime way of doing it. I need to get like one of those trays that go over the bathtub so I can like read a good book, listen to music. Someone said now that the weather's getting nicer, that helps. Sun helps with your stress, that vitamin C, and take walks. Walking is really good. That's awesome. Being able to get outside in nature, taking those fresh air rather than being stuffed and sit inside can cause to your stress too. Good environment is a good is another way stress may affect you. So that fresh air, that sunshine, that's awesome. I'm so ready for summer. I'm ready for this cold weather to be gone. Someone just commented. Small treats for myself, maybe grabbing a coffee or a smoothie, or at times shopping, a healthy amount, nothing crazy. Oh, I love shopping. I'm a little bit of dangerous, especially if I go to the outlet stores. My money is gonna be gone. I love shopping. Um, and then Starbucks. I relate to that. Starbucks can get you through anything. I'm currently working on my EdTPA, which is an assessment for my student teaching. And I have had a Starbucks basically every night that I've worked on it in order to get myself enough courage to push through and be able to like reduce that stress a little bit and make myself feel good. That's awesome. So I'll read this one real quick. Depends on the situation. That is true. Sometimes go outside, sometimes vent my stress. That's good. Finding someone that you can just vent to is awesome. Sometimes just stop what I'm doing and relax. Though I stress about the fact that the time I'm using the relaxation time I could be doing for this. I agree with that, yeah. So it's kinda like a push and pull with that, but being able to, like, even though you have that negative thought of, "Okay, I'm gonna relax in order to reduce my stress," and then thinking about, "But why am I relaxing? I could do things." And then put yourself even farther and be like, "Okay, I may be able to use this time for other things, but I need to prioritize myself." That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. Someone just said, "Sometimes taking time to just face what is stressing me out sometimes helps to avoid future stress." Yes, being able to just face it head on is awesome. Um, Sometimes that is very hard. I have a hard time just being able to push through it, but if you're able to push through it and overcome it and not have a burnout at the end, is awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. Those are awesome. I'm so glad you shared about the fact that you might think negatively while you're trying to self care and prevent that stress. And it's important to take a step back and look at that picture of why you're relaxing. Awesome. Thank you guys. I want to also leave you guys with a plan for recovery and a little bit of resources that I have, which I will show you. So we talked. The last comment that someone said was they sometimes just push through that stress. So I want to talk about what is the plan for recovery after a push through, or if you're dealing with a lot of stress and you're coming down off of a high, what can you do in order to recover from that stress, which I think is incredibly important. Those situations of overstressing can still occur despite the implications of stress management. So it's always important to be able to identify the fact that, yes, I have implemented all these strategies. However, there are going to be times in which I cannot prevent my high levels of stress. So it is important, no matter the level of stress, if you're having low levels of stress, high levels of stress, an optimal amount of stress, always be kind to yourself. You are the only person that you're gonna truly spend your entire life with, so you have to be kind to yourself, be able to create a healthy body and relationship with yourself. So be kind no matter what. And be able to tell yourself, you know what, that was very stressful, but I'm proud of myself. Tell yourself even positive affirmations if that works for you. Take time to reflect on what went well and what could be improved on for future situations. So look back as soon as you've had enough time to recover. Look back and see, okay, that strategy worked. That strategy didn't work. This one kind of worked. How can I improve it? So being able to reflect back and take those situations and modify them and adapt. Incorporate early intervention, which we talked about some strategies, and planning strategies to reduce the change of fatigue and burnout. It's supposed to be chance of fatigue. Um, so in order to implement those strategies early on, be aware of the possible levels of stress that you may be facing within the next couple days, months, weeks, and being able to plan for it is incredible important. So you're able to better face it head on without having a complete structure breakdown in order to build that foundation. And then continue to work towards a healthy stress mindset and incorporate positive affirmations. So having that healthy stress mindset of that changing your perspectives, being kind to yourself, it's not easy. It is going to be something that's going to be continued to work on throughout everyone's life. So being able to just push yourself through and be able to understand the healthy stress, being able to understand your mindset within stress, and then there's a little diagram on the right hand side. So it says stress, and that's the stress that you're receiving. So that could be um, your common stressors, that could be your collegiate stressors, that could be your leadership stressors, your relationship stressors. Dealing with that stress, and then going from that stress to a recovery, being able to look back on it, being able to self care, figure out what you need to do to reduce that amount of stress, and then adaptation. So looking through that recovery process, looking through that stress product process, and being able to adapt your strategies, your methods, and means in order to reduce the stress for the next time. And again, stress is bound to happen. It is not something that we can necessarily fully control, but we can help and support ourselves through stressful situations. And it's also important note to be kind to yourself, and that stress can be important in order to increase our optimal expectations of ourselves and be successful. So I want to leave you with a couple resources. So Kent State University actually has quite a few resources for reducing and understanding stress. So Kent State's Division of Mental Health has a page on suggested apps, and I believe there's books on there too, in order to help alleviate anxiety and stress. I know the Calm app is one of them that is listed. So if you're on your phone or you're a tech savvy person, using those apps can may be able to help reduce your stress. The EHHS, so Educational Health and Human Services, the college has a flyer on coping with stress, the different mechanisms that they have. I believe they listed three. I know one was exercise, one was a self-soothing, so like pressing on your palms. I forget the third. And then Kent State Magazine has an article entitled Stress Less, and that also talks about the stress performance curve, talks about how stress can affect you, the importance of stress, what is stress in general. So it's a good summary if you want a general understanding and something to also look back on. And then campus also does a weekly meditation. I believe they do Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's all on Zoom, so you can go in with different people and you can have a meditation session in order to promote that self-care, being able to relax to reduce your stress. So those are just some of the resources that Kent State provides for their students, staff, and faculty. And then of course I had to put Flash, who's hugging the little heart for our Flash's Safe 8, in order to kind of promote just the love of Flashes, take care of Flashes. And then these are my workshop resources. So if you want to dive even deeper into stress of life and leadership, the Wright State University has a good workshop on it that I took some ideas from. The Mental Health Foundation has a lot of good resources on stress. And the Center for Creative Leadership did a piece on leadership and the types of leadership and stress. And I believe that's a research article. So if you want to know more in depth about leadership and the types of stress that you might face, I believe it's more in the business aspect of leadership. You can check that out as well. So that is our workshop. I hope you guys enjoyed. Before I have you guys go, I do have some promotional items, of course, from the Leadership Center. So we have upcoming events. On the left is our lessons in leadership, and this is on Instagram Live at Kent State Leads. And this is with Daniel Nilsson, and he's the director of EHHS, Diversity, Outreach, and Development. He's a really cool guy, so you might want to tune into that. It's Thursday, March 25th at noon. And again, that's on Instagram Live, and our Instagram is at Kent State Leads. And then on the right, we have our virtual Student Leadership Awards, and that's April 19th, 7 to 8:30. And I believe it is also on Zoom because it is virtual. And that's where we honor different student leaders all across campus and different organizations as well. And then very important, the Leadership Center is actually having open applications for the student leadership consultant position. So if you want to do what I am doing in terms of creating and presenting workshops and being able to facilitate different TED Talks and be able to be really in-depth and hands-on with our Leadership Center, please feel free to apply. It is an awesome position. I truly love what I do, and the team here is incredibly awesome. I love my advisors, my GA, and everyone involved. It is a paid position. It is approximately 10 hours a week. If you want to apply, feel free to visit kent.edu/csi/leadership to access the application. And the application closes on April 9th, so make sure you get in. I believe we're going to have about 3 different SLCs for next year, so that is going to be super awesome. So if you are interested in that, please feel free to apply. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this workshop. I am very thankful for everyone that came out today and participated in our discussions and in our cloud. And I hope you guys enjoy and have a beautiful day and the rest of your week, and go outside and enjoy this beautiful weather. Reduce your stress by going outside. You're welcome. Thank you for joining us.